Hi, I'm Blake Alton, and this is my banter about podcasts. But the sponsors aren't interested. I hear this quite often, and sometimes it's true, and there are a few reasons for it. But basically it all boils down to one thing. Your show isn't ready for sponsors yet. So what can we do about it? Well, some of you know I've been doing some shopping for diamonds lately. And if you ever shop for a diamond, you're probably familiar with the 4 C's, and how the cut, clarity, color, and carat contribute to the stone's worth. But did you know there are 4 C's of podcasting as well? Of course you didn't, because I just made it up. But I think it's a great way of evaluating your podcast potential worth to a sponsor. The 4 C's of podcasting are consistency, content, count, and crowd. If you can get each of these to be at least a 7 on a scale of 1 out of 10, there's no reason your podcast can't be getting sponsors. Let's take them one at a time. 1. Consistency. Almost all sponsors want to see a consistent show, and you can't blame them for that. Look at it from their perspective. If you see a show that has 3 releases in a month, 1 in another month, and miss the full month of July, what would you say about that show? Shows that reliably come on the same day with the same hosts for around the same length demonstrate that you have a format and can deliver a consistent message. By the way, the consistency is not just important for your sponsors. Your listeners also need to know they'll be able to find your show when they can expect it. A reliable show makes for reliable listeners, and that contributes to the 3rd C of podcasting, but we'll have more on that later. 2. Content. This can be one of the biggest challenges to get right. And hands down, it's the most important for attracting listeners and sponsors. Ask yourself a few questions about your show. Are your hosts entertaining and personable? Do your topics speak to your membership? Are you booking quality guests? Do you have a consistent and repeatable format? Are you trying new segments to keep it fresh? Are you staying within your niche or going too broad? And lastly, would you listen to this show? Don't forget the basics. The show has to sound good technically. Unless your download numbers are spectacular, having a bad sounding show is the worst thing you can do. You're going to want to learn about how to record, edit, and mix. There are a lot of tips for making a great sounding show in my other articles and videos. Or you can always hire a great team to do them. 3. Count. Yep, you knew we'd come to this. We're talking about the download and streaming numbers. This doesn't have to be as scary as it sounds. Organizations often think that huge download numbers are the main concern of sponsors. And sometimes they're right. But I've seen podcasts with literally 0 listeners get greenlit by a sponsor and produced just on the show's idea. Some sponsors will be interested in quality over quantity. For example, let's say the Widget Association only has 7 consistent listeners. No sponsor would pay attention to a show with those kind of numbers, right? But what if the Widget Association told that sponsors that the 7 listeners weren't just any listeners, they were the CEOs and board members of the 7 world's biggest widget companies? Quality over quantity can make the difference for you in the count. 4. Crowd. This C may sound like we're talking about download numbers again, but we're not. Can you record live at your convention? This can be a huge draw for sponsors. Not only do they get normal ads on your show, but they get all the benefits of sponsoring a big event bundled in. Try to make a spectacle out of the live recording. Be sure to have your show's logo with the sponsor's logo everywhere. Take advantage of the attendees while they're right in front of you, because these are podcast listeners, and get to know what shows they like and which shows they didn't like. Put postcards in their seat. Even poll them. Ask them, do you already listen to the show? What topics would they like to hear about in the future? What guests would they like to hear from? How's the show helped them? You'll create awareness of the show to people who may not have even heard it before. I've even seen organizations put sponsor representatives in the room to greet people as they come in, or hold meet and greets afterwards to meet the hosts and the sponsors. Once you get your 4 C's up a few levels, you can be sure you'll find sparkling opportunities to get more exposure and revenue for your show's organizational mission. For more information, tricks and tips, or articles and videos, go to humanfactor.net.